do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
What's up, everybody? My name is Ethan. This is Courtside TV. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. So today is the start of the NBA season. We finally made it. Today we've got two games, Warriors versus Nets and Lakers versus Clippers. And on the start of the season, I want to upload a prediction for exact records of teams this year, as well as going through my playoff picks, who I think is going to get matched up where and who wins each series, and then my finals prediction, as well as a couple other things. So this is just my opinion, what I think is going to happen this year. I've gone through and made exact records for every single team. This is all possible. I've done the math. There is 1,080 games total in the NBA season, which means that there's going to be that many wins and that many losses. So this record prediction theoretically could come exactly true. Now, of course, I don't expect that to happen, but this is all, these all match up. There's exactly the same amount of wins as there are losses. So all of this is possible with for it to happen this year in the NBA. And I do want to stress that this is just my opinion. If I rank your team lower than you think, or I rank, your rival way higher, just remember that you're entitled to your own opinion. I'm just doing the best with the information that I've been given, and the predictions that I can make this year. And we can all learn something from, making predictions every year, right? So at the end of the season, I'm going to be going through, this list and kind of reviewing and seeing where I went wrong, what I was wrong about, what I was right about, and we'll kind of go from there. But this is just what I think as of today. Obviously, you guys know better than anyone. Things change very quickly in the NBA. Injuries are going to happen. There's probably going to be trades. We still don't know what's happening with the James Harden thing, so the Rockets record is going to be kind of up in the air for right now. But this is just my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. And I'm going to try to keep this fairly brief. Not going to go over every team one by one. Just going to go through and kind of look at the most interesting things that jump out at me. Maybe some things that I'm a little bit more bold on than some other people might be. And we're just going to go kind of a conference overlook. But we're not going to go too in-depth on every team because I don't want this video to be like an hour long. Okay, first up is my Western Conference standings predictions. And this one was really, really hard for me because we know that this conference is a total bloodbath. There is, probably 14 out of the 15 teams are actually trying to win this year. You can see the one team that isn't really going for anything is OKC, and I do have them at the bottom. I actually think they have the potential to be a little bit better than some people think, but when I was just looking at how many wins there are to go around, the Thunder they're clearly tanking. Yes, they have a couple of veterans on the team, but I just don't think they just don't have quite enough to be competitive in a very, very competitive conference, so I have them at the bottom here. The Spurs and the Kings, I think, are both going to try to be good, but they just don't really have enough here. Minnesota, I was a little more optimistic on them a couple of weeks ago. They haven't looked good so far in the preseason. I'm skeptical of their coaching and how chemistry-wise this team will come together, so I'm a little lower on them for right now. I still think they'll be competitive, but I don't have them as a play-in team. Houston is... who knows with the James Harden stuff. Even if he does stay, maybe he doesn't show up for certain nights and they rest him because they don't want to get him to get hurt or whatever. And it depends on, I guess, what they get back for James Harden. But the Rockets, I kind of throw my hands up in the air and I don't know. And then every team other than that I have as making the playoffs because we have the play-in game this year, so every team through the 10th seed makes it in the postseason. So every other team is a playoff team. The one thing that you'll notice is between my 3 seed and my 7 seed is separated by 3 wins. I do have the Warriors at the 3rd seed. I know that sounds like a little bias, and it probably is. I'm a Golden State Warrior fan. That's my team, and I'm maybe kind of a homer for them, but I really do think they have the potential to surprise some people this year, and I think Steph Curry will be one of the finalists for the MVP, and hopefully James Wiseman looks great and all that stuff. So I do think that they will have a good regular season, and they'll be, I think they're going to be surprisingly deep, so I feel like that'll lend itself pretty well to getting through a slog of a regular season there. And then Clippers 1 win below them, Dallas and Portland tied at 46, and Utah at 45. Unfortunately, that puts Utah in the play-in game. That makes them as a 7 seed. They will have to participate in the play-in game as a 7 seed there, and I feel like that's what's going to happen because really I have number 1 as the Lakers, number 2 as the Nuggets, and then that whole group of teams in there, Warriors, Clippers, Mavericks, Blazers, and the Jazz, I think are all really going to be really, really, really close this year. in terms of standings. So one of those teams at least is going to have to join in the play-in game, as well as Phoenix, New Orleans, and Memphis. I think will all be there as well. So the West, I think, is just going to be really, really close this year. Obviously, positive tests are going to be a big thing that might, hurt certain teams. If you have, your star player have a positive test and they're out for 2 weeks, that's obviously going to hurt in the regular season standings as well. That is completely unpredictable, as is injuries. One of these teams is going to get hit hard by the injury bug and drop off. That's just how it is every single year. But it's pointless to predict that kind of stuff because it's just totally random. So I'm just going off what we have right now. All right, so for the Eastern Conference, you can see that I have them at less wins overall. I think there are more teams that are kind of borderline here. I do think the East is better than in years past, but I think most of the really good teams in the NBA do reside in the Western Conference, so I have them as getting more wins overall than the East. But I definitely think that there's a lot of teams out here that can be competitive. I have the Milwaukee Bucks as the 1 seed, of course. I think they'll have a great regular season again. Whether or not that carries over into postseason success, who knows? I have Brooklyn at number 2. I think I'm higher on them than a lot of people. I think the Nets are going to be really, really good. I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten just how good Kevin Durant is, and I really do think that him and Kyrie Irving they're going to come out and they're going to play well. I talked about this. I did a Nets video about a week ago, and I really think that they're deeper than a lot of people realize. And then if KD and Kyrie are the players that we know them to be, then the Nets are going to have a really, really good season. Boston and Miami are tied for 3 and 4. I don't think that needs an explanation there. Those are really good teams. Toronto just 1 win behind at 43. I made that Raptors video a couple weeks ago, kind of questioning how good they might be this year. A lot of Raptors fans came for me in the comments on that one. I think I've maybe slightly adjusted my opinion on Toronto. I do think I was maybe a little pessimistic in that video, maybe by saying that they were going to be better than Philadelphia and stuff like that. But when you look at the roster and what they lost compared to what some of these other teams gained, I don't think it's really smart to say that they're going to be the 2 or the 3 seed again this season. I think Boston and Miami are both better, and I think that I would probably pick Philly against them also in a playoff situation, but in terms of regular season wins, I think Toronto is just too rock solid to fall off that much. So that's a still very good record, and only 1 win behind Boston and Miami. Obviously, things can change pretty quickly, and it could really go the other way. That only 1 win is they're 1 win away from being the 3 seed. So don't lose your mind over that. And then I have Washington, Indiana, Atlanta, and Orlando as the play-in teams. I think those all make pretty much sense there. I think the team that I'm highest on out of those is the Wizards, like in the regular season in terms of that. I think Russell Westbrook is obviously always been a really good regular season player, and they have some okay depth as well. And of course, Bradley Beal, I have to mention him also. I think the Wizards will surprise some people with just how good they might be this year. And then going beyond that, I have 3 teams who aren't going to be very good. That's the Cavaliers, the Knicks, and the Pistons. I wanted to give some of them a couple more wins. I had the Pistons winning like 10 or 11 games before I revised this. I gave them a couple more just because I do think Blake, if he's healthy, he'll drag them to be a little bit better than just a complete bottom feeder. But when you're just looking at how many wins there are to go around, it's hard to give them to these bad teams. And these are 3 of the teams that are tanking in the NBA this year. And that's that. Also, the Bulls, I think, could be a little bit better than this, but it's just really hard to put them ahead of a team like Charlotte or Orlando before we actually see it on paper. I am open to moving the Bulls up as the season goes along if we see it from them. See it in practice, not on paper, but in practice, them actually, playing well and showing that they can be a good team this year, because they haven't been over the past couple of years. And yes, they have younger players who are developing, but I just want to see it from them first. And then, I guess I have the Hornets just outside of that play-in. I just don't think they're quite good enough. They're not going to be, I think LaMelo Ball, while as good as he might be as a rookie, and Gordon Hayward and stuff, the rest of the roster doesn't wow me. And so I don't quite have them as challenging for that play-in spot yet. But the East is definitely getting tougher. And especially these teams at the top, I think there's a lot of really good teams. Like 1 through 6 in the East is really, really good. And realistically, I think any of them could win the title this year, and it wouldn't be outside of the realm of possibility. All right, so here's my predictions for the play-in games in the Western Conference. How the play-in works this year is it's the 7th and the 8th seed play each other, and then the 9 and 10 play each other. Whoever wins between 7 and 8 is in as the 7th seed in the playoffs, and then whoever wins that other game has to play the loser of the 7 and 8 matchup. So let's look at this here. I have the Utah Jazz against the Phoenix Suns. I have the Jazz beating them in this one-game play-in game. I just simply think that the Jazz are better. As you saw in my record predictions, I had them 5 wins better than Phoenix. I think they belong a part of the upper tier, but just because of how deep the conference is, they were only 1 game behind the 6th seed, but they do have to play in this play-in game. But I'm going to give them the win here, and they'll earn the 7th seed in the playoffs. That would mean Phoenix loses, and then I have New Orleans versus Memphis as my 9 and 10 game. I think New Orleans is better. Memphis had a really good regular season last year, but they didn't do a ton to improve the team. Yes, John Morant will be better, but also so will Zion Williamson. And as long as he's healthy, the Pelicans, I think, have a deeper roster. I think they match up well against Memphis also, so I'm going to give them the edge here. And then that play-in game, it will be Phoenix versus New Orleans, and I'm going to give the win to the Phoenix Suns. I think it'll go according to seeding here, just because I do have, I think Chris Paul has always been clutch over the past couple of years in these close games, especially last year with OKC. He was super clutch in every single close game that they had, and he played really well in the playoffs. I think he'll do it again. I think Devin Booker is ready for his big playoff moment, and I think the roster is probably about the same amount of depth as New Orleans has. I just think that when it comes down to it, I'm taking the 12, 13 year NBA veteran that is Chris Paul. He's probably even more than that, probably 15-year veteran of Chris Paul, and then over the second year Zion Williamson and young Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart. I just don't think they've quite cut their playoff chops yet. So I am going to take Phoenix over New Orleans in the play-in game, and they will earn the 8th seed in the Western Conference. Alright, so the play-in games in the Eastern Conference I actually think are quite a bit more interesting than the West. I have these 4 teams here. The Washington Wizards versus the Indiana Pacers. I'm going to take the Pacers to pull an upset, I guess, there. I guess that's technically an upset. I have them with a worse regular season record than the Wizards, just by the 1 game. But I think what's going to happen here is the Pacers have a lot of continuity from last year. They're bringing back pretty much the same team, and they've been, pretty solid over the years with the roster that they currently have. Whereas with Washington, it's a brand new roster. We know about Russell Westbrook's struggles in the playoffs, and I think Indiana actually matches up pretty well against Washington here, so I'm going to take the Pacers to earn that 7 seed and force the Wizards to go into their next play-in game versus whoever wins 9 and 10. That's going to be Atlanta and Orlando. I think Atlanta is significantly better here, especially in a playoff setting versus the Magic. I don't know. I like Atlanta's roster a lot better. The Magic haven't really done anything over the past 3 or 4 years. That's pretty much been the same team. And they've earned the 8th seed every year, right? They've been able to make it in the playoffs as that 8th seed in their conference, and lose in the first round for the past 3 or 4 seasons now. And for the Magic, I just think that the conference has gotten better around them. The Hawks added a lot in the offseason. I think Trae Young will come up big. He'll be the best player in the series, which is a big edge there in the playoffs. Trae Young being the best player in that game. If he puts up a big stat line, I think that's pretty much it for whoever the opponent is. And so I do have them beating Orlando, and then as well as having them beating the Washington Wizards. I think they'll come in as the 9th seed and then earn their way to that 8th seed by beating Orlando and Washington. Like I said, I think Russell Westbrook has had his playoff struggles in the past. I think that'll continue, and I think Trae Young will play well, and I just think the roster is overall more well-rounded and deeper than the Wizards are, and so I'll take the Hawks in that 1-game shootout just because I think their offensive capability is better and they're a deeper team. So I'll take the Atlanta Hawks to earn the 8th seed in the East. Alright, so according to that, this will be my lottery. Before we get into the playoff predictions, this is what I think the lottery is going to look like as from, best to worst odds here. I'm not entirely sure how it works with the play-in teams, whereas if it depends on when you lose in the play-in or what your record was, or if the play-in teams have automatically the worst lottery odds, because as you can see here at the bottom, I have Orlando having better odds than Houston just based on their regular season record, but Orlando played in the play-in game where Houston didn't, so I'm not sure exactly how that works, but this is just ordered by record here. I have the Pistons, the Knicks, and the Thunder as the worst records in the league. They'll all have the best odds for the first overall pick. Cleveland and Chicago, we've seen them here before. Sacramento and San Antonio also I think will be down there. You can see it on the screen there. And if this is how the lottery goes, it'll be pretty interesting to see what happens at the top, but that's a long ways away, of course. But yeah, these are going to be the teams that will miss the playoffs in the NBA. All right, so here is the Western Conference playoffs. I have the Lakers playing against the Phoenix Suns as the 1-8 matchup. I think the Suns will get one game off of them, but the Lakers are really, really good. It's going to be hard to get more than that. So I'll take the Lakers in 5. My 2 versus 7 is going to be Denver versus Utah, a rematch from last year. I think it'll be the same result. I think it'll be a 7-game series with Denver coming out on top. The Jazz always play the Nuggets tough. I think Donovan Mitchell will play well again. It's going to be a very similar series to last year, I feel like, but I will take the Nuggets to pull off that win yet again. I will take the Clippers versus Dallas, another rematch of last year. I didn't even really mean to do that. It's just kind of how the standings shook out when I did my predictions for it. And I will take, the Clippers over the Mavericks again, this time in 7. I think the Clippers are actually being underrated going into this year for all the playoff collapses that they had, and how, they didn't really look very good. I do feel like this team is still good, and I think they'll come back with a renewed focus. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George will, still be themselves. For all of Paul George's struggles in the playoffs, I still think this team is good. And so I'll take the Clippers to win in the first round in 7 games against a young Dallas team. Yes, a lot of people are high on them. They probably could have been seeded higher, but like I mentioned, it's just so close in the West. It's hard for me to put them any higher than this. And I just think that Luka, yes, he has had his playoff moment already last year against this same team. I just don't think the Mavericks roster is quite deep enough for them to challenge against the Clippers here. And then Golden State Warriors versus Portland. I'm going to take the Warriors to beat Portland. Steph Curry's had Damian Lillard's number for the last 5 years now. The Warriors, every time they play the Blazers, they've won. Yes, it's the Warriors team is not as good as it has been in the past, but I think they have enough with Wiggins and Oubre on the wings, can play enough defense on Lillard and McCollum. I think the Warriors roster is deeper than a lot of people think, and I just, it's Steph Curry, man. I think they're going to win. Blazers get 2 games, but I think it'll go to 6. Then moving into the conference semis, I have the Lakers and the Clippers. We finally get the LA matchup. I just think the Lakers are better at this point. Last year I had picked the Clippers, but based on what we saw last season, it's just hard for me to pick anybody over the Lakers right now. So I think it'll go 6 games, but I'll take the Lakers to win it. And then the Warriors versus Denver. I think it's a similar thing. Steph Curry has had Denver's number for a while now. Every time they play, it's just like Denver just doesn't quite know what to do against them. I think they'll put up a good fight, but really I think Steph Curry will be hot, and Jamal Murray, for as good as he was, I don't know if he can replicate his bubble performance from last season, and I don't know if he can defend Steph Curry, to be totally honest with you. So I'm going to take the Warriors to win in 6 again. Then we go to the conference finals, and as much as I want to pick my Warriors to go to the NBA finals again, I'm going to take the Lakers in 7. I think it's perfectly possible for the Warriors to beat anybody as long as Steph Curry gets hot. Yes, listen, I know I'm being a little bit biased here, but I have to do it, man. I'm not going to pick against my team. I have the Warriors here just because we know how close it's going to be in the West. And if Steph Curry can get hot for any given series, I can pick the Warriors to win anytime. So I think that, especially if the Lakers have some type of injury or anything. Obviously, we can't predict anything like that. But, if there's any sort of opening for the Warriors to sneak in here, I think Curry can get it done. He really is that good. And I liked a lot of the offseason additions they made, and so I'm really optimistic on the team. But as currently constructed, I just can't really pick anybody over the Lakers right now. They're just good. They won the title last year and they got better. So I don't know how you're expecting anybody to pick anyone other than the Lakers right now at this point. All right, and for the Eastern Conference, I have the Milwaukee Bucks going up against the Atlanta Hawks. I'm going to take the Bucks in 5. Yes, the Hawks are a fun story. I think they'll get hot enough for one game to get it. And it seems like the Bucks have kind of dropped early round games in the past couple of years. It'll be a feeling out period. The Hawks are a new team. Nobody really has matchup experience against them at this point. So I think they'll, be enough to get one game off the Bucks, but just Milwaukee's better. Brooklyn over Indiana. I think this is going to be my only sweep in the first round. I think that's actually the only sweep I picked all playoffs. There's going to be more than that, but that's the one I've picked here. I just think Brooklyn's better. I'm really high on this team right now. And I think Indiana, for as consistent as they've been, last year they got swept in the first round also, and they were a higher seed that time. So I'm just going to take a sweep here. I think Brooklyn is just strictly a better team, and I think they match up well also. Miami and Toronto, I'll take the Heat. They were in the finals last year. I think they'll be really good again. And it's just hard for me to see Jimmy Butler losing in the first round. So the Raptors, as consistent as they have been as well, consistent playoff performers, and they've been there every single year, and they're deep. But with the conference being deeper this year, there's more good teams here. I think being a lower seed, they'll have to play a tougher game in the first round. And so against Miami, I'm just going to take them to win in 6. And then Boston and Philly is another tough one here, but I've taken Boston to win in 7. I think Philly's going to be a lot better than last year, but I just don't know if they are as good as the Celtics right now. I think Tatum, I picked him to win the MVP. I think he's going to have a really, really good season, and assuming that they're healthy by then, hopefully Kemba will be back into his full self. I've seen a lot of Kemba disrespect lately, and this is one thing I've wanted to talk about for a while, but Kemba started in the All-Star game last year. You guys are forgetting that. Yes, he didn't have a great playoff series, and he's hurt right now, but Kemba started in the All-Star game, you guys. He's a really, really good player. So I they'll get Kemba back, and I think that the Celtics are just going to be better, but it'll be close. Anytime it's a 7-game series, it really is almost a coin flip, but I'm going to take the Celtics to win it. Moving over to the other side, I have the Milwaukee Bucks losing in 7 to the Heat again. I still think the Heat match up well against them, even after the Bucks kind of overhauled their entire roster. The Heat have the personnel to really slow down Giannis, and then once you get past that, it's Jrue Holiday, and you have Jimmy Butler to guard Jrue Holiday. I just think the Heat are too good defensively. They're too locked in. They're coming off a great run last year, and they're going to have young players who get a lot better, not to mention maybe they trade for James Harden, and in that case, that team probably becomes even better depending on what they have to give up to get him. But I just think they match up too well against Milwaukee, and even with all the changes they've made, I still think the Heat are probably better. So I'm going to take them to win in 7. Brooklyn and Boston, I'm going to take the Brooklyn Nets with Kevin Durant to win in 6 games. Like I talked about them before, but KD, I think he's fully back from his injury. I just think this team is really, really good. I'm going to take the veteran experience. Both KD and Kyrie Irving have championship experience. Jason Tatum does not, so that's what I'm rolling with there. And I'm going to take the Brooklyn Nets to beat the Boston Celtics in 6 games. That gets us to the conference finals. As much as I love the Heat and as much as I want to pick them, I'm going to take the Brooklyn Nets to win and make their trip to the NBA Finals. It just boils down to people are forgetting how good Kevin Durant is. They're forgetting how good Kyrie Irving is. This team is sneaky deep, with Jared Allen, DeAndre Jordan, Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, and you can even go down the roster, man. If you want to, hear my full thoughts on the Nets, I talked about them in a video from last week. You can go check that out. But I really think this team is sneaky deep, and I just believe in their stars. Both of them have been there before, and so I'm going to take the Brooklyn Nets to punch their ticket to the NBA Finals and defeat the Miami Heat in 6 games. Alright, so that sets up a finals matchup of Lakers versus Nets. Kevin Durant versus LeBron James. Again, I think it's going to happen, and I think it's going to be exciting. As you can see, I've got them both in my background. They were on different teams then, and now they're going to be meeting up again, both of them with another team. So, Lakers versus Nets. As much as I would love to pick Brooklyn here, I really am high on them, and I think they're going to have a really, really good season. I'm going to take the Lakers to win the finals in 7 games. I think it's going to be close, and I think that it's going to be, up and down series. I think it'll go, at one point we'll think the Nets are going to win. At one point we think the Lakers are for sure going to win. It's going to go back and forth. We'll get to a game 7, and when it comes down to it, I think the Lakers are too deep. As much as, I've criticized LeBron over the years, I think he's going to have a good series again. Anthony Davis, there's not really anybody on Brooklyn that you can point to and say, this is the guy that's going to shut down Anthony Davis. Jared Allen is still too young. DeAndre Jordan's past his prime. KD can maybe do a little bit on him, but he's coming off the Achilles, so who knows how he looks, right? But, I guess in picking the Nets to get here, he looks good, so I don't know. This season, it's hard to pick anybody but LA. They're coming off a title and they got better, and that's all you really need to know. I think it'll be close. I think there's certainly a possibility that the Lakers could lose here or earlier in the Western Conference playoffs. There's a lot of good teams in the NBA right now, especially if an injury happens or an opposing player gets really hot for a couple games. I could definitely see an upset happening, but it's kind of irresponsible to pick anybody but the Lakers right now to win the title. I just think they're the odds-on favorite, and it's just hard to pick anybody else. But I am going to pick the Lakers to win the title. I'm hoping that it's going to be a fun and competitive year, but I'm going to take the Lakers in 7 games over the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA Finals. All right, man, that's my NBA season predictions. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Get excited, because if you're seeing this the day it's uploaded, this is day 1 of the NBA season, and I'm just really excited for it. This is going to be my first year full-time covering the NBA for this YouTube channel, as well as some of the other stuff that I'm doing. So really excited for it. And like I said at the top of the video, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, ring the bell if you want to, leave a comment letting me know what you guys think about this. What do you think about who's going to win the title this year? What are some bold predictions for the season? Who do you think is going to be in the conference finals? I'd love to hear it. And remember that this is just my opinion. Like I said at the top of the video, take it with a grain of salt. This is just what I think is going to happen, and you're more than welcome to disagree and have your own thoughts on it, and let me know about those in the comments. But with all that said, I will see you guys in the next one.